Hello everybody, and welcome to my second video about word styles. Well, in the first video I showed you how to use them. In this video I'm going to show you how to create, manage, and really become a solid, confident user in word styles. So over here we have our styles menu. Now some quick best management tips for your style use. Normal is going to be your best friend. If you set up a good normal style for your source document, if you go into a blank document and you create a good normal style, you can have this normal style be your style for all of your documents. That means that if you copy and paste text from one document to another, then you've got the ability to have it look the same across documents. A big mistake that a lot of corporate users have in Word is they set up a different normal style for every single document. I see that a lot in my line of work, where every document either has a different normal or a different paragraph font text that's based on that document's name. And really, it creates a whole lot of added wasted time moving text between documents, because even when you paste to destination document formatting, having it come from a different document style can still cause issues, although that is less of an issue with current versions of Word than older versions of Word. It is still sometimes problematic. So, as a good best management practice, set up a normal document style that you like, set up your headings, titles, what table of contents styles as you like, and have those apply to all of your documents. If you have different clients or different professors for your college courses who have specific requirements for what documents should look like, you can create specific templates for those clients or classes. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to manage a style. To create a style, it's very easy. You go down here to the style window and you find, should be highlighting new style. There it is. If you click this, it will give you the ability to create a new style, which you can name and modify. So we're going to create a new style. I'm going to call this Delete Me because I don't want to use it after this video is done. The style type, there are a few different ones to choose from. Paragraph, character, linked, table, and list. The vast majority of these you're never going to use. Paragraph is the default, and it's the one that you're generally going to want to use. A paragraph style will apply that style to the entire paragraph that you're working on. Character level styles modify characters. Right here, character styles are a great way to start messing up the formatting of your document. One of my strict rules about styles is never use a character style. Linked, paragraph and character links your paragraph and your character. This is another one I never, for any reason, use. Table. A table style is used if you're creating a style that will be used in a document table. Tables are a little bit outside the scope of this specific video, but if you are creating a table for a report or a homework assignment, you would want to try to use a table type of style. And then a list style is the style that you would use when you're creating a list. If you look over in my style screen on the right, you can see headings 1 through 6. Those are lists, and those use the list style. Same thing with table of contents 1, 2, and 3 down at the bottom. We're going to stick with paragraph because the majority of styles you're going to want to work with are paragraph styles. Style is based on normal or any of these other ones. If you select normal for your style being based on, any changes you make to normal will be reflected in this style that you're creating. If you select no style, then this style is its own document style. Making changes to other styles will not affect it. So generally speaking, whenever I create or manage a style, I like to have no style be what it's based on. The exception, of course, for the headings over there, those are based on the previous style. Most of them, I believe, are linked to heading 1. And the table of contents styles as well are linked to table of contents 1. So if you have a list style where you want to have changes cascade through the list, then you would want to have your style to be being based on the first item in that list. And that way you can make changes to that first item and have them consistently flow through that entire list. Style for following paragraphs is going to be whatever you want it to be. If you're creating a heading style, let's say heading level 1, then you would want to have normal be your style following that. And that means that as soon as you hit enter at the end of the heading or the paragraph, the next paragraph that starts is going to use the normal style. Okay, but if you're working on a style that you want to have that same style follow it every time, then you just have every time you hit enter at the end of the paragraph, it continues with this style until you tell it to do something different. We're just going to leave that as normal because in general, a good practice for setting up styles is to have normal, or your default document style, follow each of your styles so that you can just go right back into standard paragraph writing when you're done with whatever you're doing with this style that you're creating right now. Okay, let's take a look at these formatting items here. There are 2 rows in this formatting box and then this box below it. As we make changes in these 2 rows, you're going to see them reflected in this box that shows an example of what the document's going to look like. So we can change the font from, let's say, Garamond to Arial, and you can see that the font changed down here to Arial. If we change it from 12 to 18 point, you can see how this is now going to look as an 18-point font. Bold, italics, and underline are reflected here, and they are the standard bold, italic, and underline font settings. This is your forced color. You can create a specific color for your font. As a general practice, using 85% is a good color. That's the second one here from the bottom in this column. And you can also use 75%. That's another good one. These 2 right here, because they're a little bit lighter than just jet black, are easier on the eyes. There's lower contrast in your document, so reading it either in print or on screen will cause less eye strain for you and for your reader. And that can be really useful. Also, if you're printing it and you have it in jet black versus one of these 2, you're going to spend a lot more money in ink and toner. So if you have it set to 85 or 75%, you can prolong the lifespan of your printer cartridge. And so 85% is my preferred color. I just find it to be very easy on the eyes, and of course, it saves me money. These are your paragraph spacing items right here: left, center, right, and justify. For reader benefit, paragraphs should be left justified, not full justified. Full justified paragraphs are surprisingly hard to read because the space between each word changes from line to line, and that makes it hard to get your readers into a reading rhythm, which allows them to read the information quickly, and this can cause people's eyes to get tired out fairly quickly. So for a paragraph, left align with ragged edges, as this is called right here, is a really good way of setting up a paragraph. Center is very good for creating headings. You can also do headings in left align. And then right justify would be for things like either footnotes or quotes or call-outs, things like that. These 3 symbols right here are your line spacing. This is within your paragraph. So single spacing, 1.5, and double spacing. And you can see down here, by the way, as I make these changes, the text down here is changing to indicate what's being changed. So this will allow you to set up different spacing within your paragraphs so that your paragraph can have the exact look that you want. Now, these buttons up here are quick presets. We're going to get in a minute to seeing exactly how to modify this well beyond what just these buttons can do. This is your paragraph before and after spacing right here. This controls the gap between paragraphs, before and after. So if you have, let's say, a 6-point gap before and a 6-point gap after, then you're going to have a total of a 12-point gap between paragraphs. And we'll see that in just a moment when we get into the font and spacing tabs. We can click on this button right here to increase the amount of spacing on the outsides of our paragraph, or we don't like that, that was too much, we can decrease it just like that, or take it all the way to 0. This is your indent spacing, or your distance from your left margin. You can see that's indenting right there, and that's reverse indenting. Just like that. So this way you can set up indents if you're creating a style for long quotes. Let's say you have a document where you're going to be quoting a source, and many of the quotes are about a paragraph long. You could create a style where you indent your quotes an inch so that they stand out from the rest of your document as being actual quotes. Adding to the styles gallery means that when you create this style, it will appear over here on the right side in your styles gallery. Automatically updating will allow this to automatically update when you make style changes to whatever it's based on. Only in this document and new documents based on this template. Only in this document means this style lives only in this document. It will be saved in the Word document that you're using. New documents based on this template will save this style to your master Word template. So if you want this style to appear in the gallery for all of your documents, you want to click this one. All right, now let's start taking a look at this tab button right here. This is where you really get a lot of fine control over exactly how your styles are going to look. First, we're going to go into font. This pulls up the font tab that you could get into from up here, from home and then font, and gives you all of the exact same controls over how your font looks. Font face, color, size, things like that. These are all accessible in this quick window. You can do things here like your underline style, words only, or full lines including spacing. Underlining color, you can set up a color for your underline if you want to have it that way. Strike through, double strike through, standard formatting options here. Hidden text is if you want to have the text in the document but be hidden unless you click the paragraph markers. You can see down here a preview of what everything's going to look like as we go through the different settings here. Advanced gives you a lot of control over exactly how your document's going to look. Scale, you could make your letters larger or smaller in here. You could set your spacing to have slightly more space between your letters or slightly less space between your letters. And more and less space is really useful if you're going to do something like a heading style or a title style, like on the cover of your document, and you want to have it stand out just a little bit. Ligatures, number spacing, number forms, things like that. These are all highly specialized uses that are more advanced than this video warrants. These are things that will be used for a very, very small number of users, and if you're using these, you probably already know how to use them. So we're going to go back to the font, and you can see here exactly how everything's going to look. We're going to hit cancel because I don't need to keep these changes. The next one is the paragraph style. This paragraph box, rather. This is really where everything starts to get very well controlled. In the general, you can control your alignment, which we saw in the quick access box earlier. You can now also set an outline level. So if this is going to be an outline or a heading level type of style, you can specify what level you want that outline to be. Generally speaking, body text for most styles, unless you're creating a list style, is what you're going to just set that at. You can specify your indentation. Instead of in the quick access bar over here, we could set this in 1/2 inch margins. Here we can set it in 1/10 of an inch margins. Special, first line, or none. Let's take a look at what this looks like. First line means that only your first means that your first line is going to be indented. Let's bring this back down to 0. Here we go. You can see the sample right here. First line indents your first line by 1/2 inch. Hanging indents all of your lines except the first line by 1/2 inch. All right, but we want a 1-inch indent, you can do that. You can specify a larger indent right here. You can also mirror the indents if you want to. Honestly, have never used that and have no idea exactly what it does. Spacing before and after. This affects the spacing before and after your paragraph. So watch the spacing around the dark text here as I adjust this. We can adjust the spacing before, and now whenever we create a paragraph, there will be a blank line of, in this case, 36 points on top of the paragraph. Oops, wrong way. After does the exact same thing, but after the paragraph right here. So here's a place where this is very useful. I generally speaking keep the before spacing as 0. I will use after spacing for paragraphs and for lists. Basically, after the paragraph, I like to have a 6-point space, or whatever half of my font size is, because that's just a little bit easier for the reader and it helps them identify where a paragraph ends and a new paragraph begins. This is also really useful for after a heading level. One of the things with heading levels, those are the exception, by the way. I like to use spacing before a heading. So you can see here how in this area over here, there's a line between this paragraph and this heading. If we have a spacing before this heading of 12 point, oops, too far. What we can do is have a full line of text between the end of this paragraph and this heading to help break out the heading from the previous paragraph. And then for headings, I have a 0 point after so that the paragraph for that heading just marries up with that heading very nicely. So as a general rule, headings get a before space with me, and paragraphs get an after space with me. Lists I give no spacing to because that helps keep the list nice and tight with itself and with the paragraph that it is connected to. And then that way, if a heading follows a list, the heading style before spacing creates the space that I want to have there. So that's just a good tip on how you can use this spacing to make your documents look really clean and consistent as you change from paragraphs to lists to headings and back and forth. Line spacing affects the spacing within your paragraph. So check out the dark paragraph in the preview window when I click double. It adds a full line of space between each line within your paragraph. So if you're doing homework for a course and your professor wants double-spaced lines, this is how you do it, very quickly and easy. And you don't have to insert a return after each line, and using this style will make it easier for you to edit your document when you're working on it. If you can get away with 1.5 point, that's fine. If you say, let's do at least 12 point, what if we go up and do 14, 18? You can see here that this is going to put at least 20 points of character spacing between each line. Okay. What about exactly? This is going to put exactly 16 or 17 or 9 points of spacing between each line. Multiple. This is where we're talking about how many lines. The previous two, at least and exactly, dealt with points, the same way that font sizing is done in points. Multiple deals with lines. I'm actually a big fan of doing 1.25 lines. Dang it. There we go. 1.25 lines, because it's a little bit more than a full line, and it makes it just a little bit easier for the person who's reading the document to read it. You can see here in this style where I have the paragraph over on the left here, this is set up with 1.25 line spacing. It's just a nice way to make it a little bit easier for the reader's eyes to identify which line is which and to follow a specific line from one side of the page to the next. Line and page breaks are a little bit more of an advanced function that you really don't need most of the time. If you're in here, you probably have a pretty good idea of how most of these work, but we'll go over a couple of them. Widows and orphans are single lines at the top and the bottom of the page. And widow and orphan control being checked will prevent that. This will make sure that each page has no fewer than 2 lines at the top or bottom of it, and that's just a good approach for document layout and a good best practice. Keeping with next and keeping together and page break before affect the way that your paragraph wraps at page breaks. Honestly, I never use these. I couldn't tell you exactly what they do. I believe that they are more for specific niche uses with document layout. Suppressing line numbers and don't hyphenate are really more for, as I understand them, people who are doing legal documents, contracts, things like that, and who want to make sure that these things don't happen automatically. And tight wrapping is, again, it has to do with the way that things wrap with your paragraph. Also, something I've never used. I've never had a need to go into the tight wrap function and have it be modified for a document. Generally speaking, Word is pretty darn good at having these functions work the way that most people are expecting them to work for most documents. So the only thing in this tab that you really need to make sure is checked is widow and orphan control, and it generally is. So now let's go into the tabs key right here. This allows you to create tabs, and in a subsequent video I'll show you really the power of this, but this is very good for things like table of contents styles. Let's say that we're setting up a table of contents style, and we want to have the page number be at the right side of the document. If you're using a standard US letter document, that's 6.5 inches. If you're using an A-size sheet of paper, that's going to be something else in metric. I don't know what it is. We're going to have a right side tab. You can set it to left, center, right. Decimal and bar, these are very specialized uses. I've never once in 25 years of using Word now, or whatever it's been, very close to that, I have never used decimal or bar. So these are not things you're likely to use. The leader is none, periods, dashes, or underscores. And this would be, let's say that we have the right side 6.5 point tab with periods. Now, the left text is going to say section 1, lots of periods. Right side aligned is going to be the page number. That's how that's going to result, what this is going to do for your document. We hit set, and now that tab is set. Okay, but maybe we're doing a heading tab. Well, half of 3.5 is 3.25. We want to have something center aligned. This is going to create a center aligned tab at 3.25. There we go. So now we can see the tabs that we're having for our style right in here. If we're going to have a style that needs specific tabs, we can set those up to whatever we need them to be, and with whatever leader or tab style. And like I said, in a subsequent video, I'll show you a lot more about how these tabs work, both in this dialog box as well as up here in this little left control box, and how to use them in the ruler bar. I'm going to hit cancel so that we don't actually save that. We just did tabs. We accessed it through the paragraph box. We're going to skip tabs this time. And we're going to go into border. Border lets you create a box around your paragraph. Here's the preview window so you can see what that's going to look like. If we click box, it creates a box. If we select a thick black line, it's going to create a thick black line. If we create a shadow, we can have it be a shadow box like that, right? This is useful if you are creating something like a call-out box. Let's say you're working on a marketing document and you want to have something that your company has done be called out. You can create a call-out box however you would like it to be formatted with these functions right here. You can adjust the color of your lines, the width of your lines. You can apply it to your whole paragraph. You can eliminate some of the lines if you want them to be eliminated like that. You can really customize exactly how it's going to look. For some reason, 3D box is not working in the preview for me. Maybe it just doesn't. I've never used a 3D box. I will use boxes on occasion. Really, I try to keep my documents pretty minimal. I find that having a fancy looking box can be distracting. So we'll keep the box here for now. Page border does not apply in the styles guide because this is only for paragraph styles, not for page styles. That's why this is grayed out. Shading is going to be the shading within your box. So if you wanted to have a special shading color within your box instead of or in addition to a border to have it stand out, you could do that. And then your options here control how far your box will be from the text. So if we increase this here, you can see that on the top, we're creating a space along the top between the top of the paragraph and the box. Or if we add it on the left, we can add some space there. And this is really a way to maximize your page real estate. If you have all of these set to say 1 and 4 as they were, that will let you put the text in there and have it take up as much of the box as you want. Or you could do something like 5, 5, 5, 5, and just have this kind of nice and centered with a little bit of space around it. However you want your text box to look, that's what this is going to do as it applies to the text within the box. Next, we're going to go to language. I only have English set up, so this is not a tab that I use. And basically, if you do have other languages that you type in, you can specify a language for that style. And you can also tell your style, this specific style you're working on, to be exempted from spelling and grammar checks by checking that box right there. Okay, that's how you're going to use that. And if you select a different language, whatever language you use, you can then work within that language with just this one style. So this is really good if you're doing something like a homework assignment for a linguistics or a language class for a different language. If you're a student studying French or classical Latin or Breton or whatever language you are studying, you can set up your style for this to be for that language so that when you're using that language in your document, it will, this style, you can select this style for that language, and then you can have it apply that language to this style and just make your life a little bit more streamlined. Framing is the way this, go back to the text box in your mind. Again, I don't understand why they have this arranged this way. Framing should have been after the borders box in this drop down. Anyway, framing is how the text wraps around your text box. Is there a gap to the left and right? Or if this were right aligned only to the left? Or does the text go right up to the text box? And this is your paragraph text that is outside of your text box. Here you can specify the size of the spacing around your text box. You can specify the horizontal position of the text wrapping here as well. And you can also select the vertical position of the text wrapping around your text box. These are things that if you're going to be working with text boxes, you can mess around with and see how they look and set them up to look the way that you want them to look. Honestly, for me, text boxes in Word, I do use them a lot. I just go with the default settings and call it good because realistically, if someone tells me they're unhappy with my document because of the spacing around the text boxes, they weren't going to like it before I gave it to them anyway, and I gave them no better reasons to dislike it. Move with the text and lock anchor affect the way that your text box moves within your document. So moving with text, if you have your text box within a paragraph and you go up 3 pages and you insert a bunch of more paragraphs, this will allow your text box to move with your paragraph. Locking your anchor will lock the anchor where you place it. So when you have an anchor for a text box or a JPEG or something, it's literally an anchor symbol when you click this paragraph symbol up here. So if you lock the anchor, what you can do is have that text box move and stick with that specific paragraph. Locking the anchor is good when you're like 95% of the way done with a document. But if you're still really working on a document, it can be kind of a pain as it can cause your text box to place itself within margins and things like that. So I tend to like move with text and disable lock with anchor if I'm creating a text box style. Then the next one is numbering. Numbering allows you to specify for list styles exactly how the numbering is going to look. And if you look on the right side there, my heading 1 through 6, these are numbered styles, okay? So what we can do is we can go into a numbering and we can select the default numbering style, or we can define a new numbering style. With this, we have a lot of control. With the default, we have, 7 different choices, 8 if you include none. Here, you can select from a much larger array of numbering styles. You can specify a special numbering format. So if you needed to have something up at the front, let's say your client name or your class name, something like that. Or if you were making a bulleted list of different clients, if you have 20 clients you're working with and you want to have a bullet about each one of them, client 1, bullet, client 2, bullet. You don't want necessarily everyone to know who your clients are, but you know because of the number of them that they're assigned. You can adjust your spacing here, your alignment. I don't know why this is so far over to the right. That shouldn't be so far over to the right, but it is. That's very weird. If we go into the font, now this brings back up our font menu, and we can adjust all of these different things here for the way that our bullet list is going to look. I'm sorry, for the way that our numbered list is going to look. Bullets are next. Here's our bullet list. If you're setting up a bullet list style, you can select the type of bullet that you want. Personally, I'm a big fan of square because not a whole lot of people use them and they look very clean and crisp on a document. The circle ones, those are so overused. It's just like, it's lazy. I don't know. I just picked the default. So square, it just looks nice and crisp. You can also define a new bullet. You can pick any of the preset symbols from the symbols font library. You could go into picture. You could download a picture from your computer or from the internet and use that as your bullet. That is going to take up a lot of space on your document. I really strongly recommend avoiding that. It makes sense only if you're doing a corporate document and they want to have their bullet be a logo. Or you can choose a specific font item. So if we go into, nope, there we go. That's one. If we want to have this symbol be our bullet, we could do that. You could pick any of the glyphs from any of the fonts, and then you could set them up to be bold, italics, different size, different color, whatever you want. And you could have that be your bullet. Shortcut keys. This is not something I use, by the way. So I'm not going to be the guy to tell you exactly how to do this, but if you set up a shortcut key, this will give you the ability to use a shortcut key to set a line or a paragraph to the style that you've created. This is something for power users. And even though I'm a power user in very many ways, this is not something that I do. I prefer just to have my styles window open on the right and then just click on the style that I want to apply to whatever line or paragraph I'm working on. And then text effects. This will allow you to give different text looks to your document. These are things like no fill, solid fill, gradient fill, transparency, your outlining, whether or not you're going to have a shadow, a reflection, a glow, whatever. This is where you can take text that you can edit and turn it into something that really, quite frankly, looks like clip art. This is not something I would recommend using if you're putting together a professional, a serious, or an academic document, because this can get out of hand really quickly. The strength in these text effects is that you can type some text and then you can apply these text effects. And it's like creating clip art text without having to go through all of the hassle of actually using clip art. And that is everything in the styles menu and all of the different things you can do to create and set up styles. Styles really are the way that you can make your documents sing and be beautiful and consistent throughout the entire document, or throughout a series of documents for a class or a client over the course of months or years. And you can really work within styles to simplify and streamline your document formatting and make your life a whole lot easier. So as you learn how to use styles, this is a really powerful tool that's going to make your documents look better, read more easily, and be perceived as more professional. So I strongly recommend setting up some styles for yourself, applying them to your documents that you're going to use, and really getting to know the ins and outs of how these different things work and using them to your best advantage. Have a good day, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.